Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. Batista with a drive. Deep left field. Go down. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Cabin Sports Radio back on the air for another week. Got a great show for you tonight. Going to talk some MLB playoffs. Jordan Tutu announcing his retirement in Brandon over the weekend. Also some NBA. And we got a couple new co-hosts in the house, Chrissie Carrigan and Jesse Wheeler. We are going to hear from them as Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
You're listening to Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio is back on the Cabin Radio airwaves. And yes, of course, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Joining me in studio for tonight's episode, Chrissie Carrigan and Jesse Wheeler. Welcome, everybody.
Jesse 18 Wheeler. That's I don't know. That's my Chris Berman
Be kind
nickname.
to yourself,
my
Jesse.
Chris Berman nickname. You ever see Chris Berman on ESPN? He always used to give people nicknames.
I need one now.
Everyone. So Chrissie, Cash, and Carrigan.
Well, that's not bad.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he used to say Jeff Paper Bagwell, stuff like that.
Okay, well, we might need you to come up with one for Mike, because he was thinking he needs a new nickname.
It's too
we
bad
haven't come
Gibby
up with
was
anything.
taken, because Gibby is,
Gibby's right there.
It's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Mike,
But he's retired now, so maybe we can do a trade-off.
Oh, there
Is
you
he
go.
retired? No, he just
You
got
just steal
fired.
it
Did
from
he
him.
retire?
I think he used it as an opportunity to retire.
Nah, he's such a rakishly handsome man. He's the best looking manager in baseball.
So Mike's in Las Vegas right now. So
At a Trump rally.
apparently. I don't know.
You're
He's
stuck with us.
He's on thin ice.
like-
that guy.
Definitely a downgrade.
But of course, we needed two co-hosts to fill in the void that unbreakable Mike Gibbons. That's what he used to nickname him.
Unbreakable Mike Gibbons. That's great.
That's an old one. I rehash it every once in a while. But yeah, Mike out for 2 weeks. So special guest Jesse Wheeler. He's on the IR.
How is
What
he
can
going
you
to
do?
survive 2 weeks in
Yeah,
Vegas?
he's
That's
Vegas
impossible.
for 2 weeks. That's nuts.
I think he might be going home for a bit, but
I
I hope he's not doing Vegas for 2 weeks.
That's
or
gross.
else
That would be gross.
I don't expect him back after that.
Yeah.
Nobody lives there, right? Like you would just die.
I think some people do.
My roommate in university, born and raised, whole family lives there.
Holy smokes! Bryce Harper, also born and raised there.
Speaking of Bryce Harper, MLB playoffs, the World
not make the
Series.
playoffs.
No, they did not. But he plays baseball, and we were going off on a wild tangent. So to bring it all back in here,
A mighty Sigu.
Major League Baseball playoffs.
Yes.
World Series.
Yes.
Kicking off tomorrow. Game 1 and
Yes.
then Game 2 on Wednesday. Dodgers, Red Sox. Chrissie, Jesse, I want predictions from both of you. First of all, Chrissie, how do you see this series going?
For 2 reasons, I'm going to pick Boston. The first, because I was just there, so
Yeah.
feels like I should have some sort of allegiance to them. I don't know. And second, because like historically, lately, they've been doing really well. They've won, 3 World Series in the last 15 years? Whatever? Less than that, 13 years?
Yeah,
something
the
like
last
that?
14 years, three
Yeah.
series. Yep.
So-
04, 09, and 13.
Also, I don't know.
04, 07, and 13, pardon me.
If you had to choose between Boston and LA, I don't know, just the authenticity, I'm going to choose Boston. I'm going Boston.
All right.
LA's got a long and storied history as well. They started off as the Robins, and then they moved. While they were in Brooklyn, they became the Dodgers, and then they moved to LA in '58, I believe.
And we're still the Dodgers.
The last time these two teams played each other in the World Series was 1912 at Ebbets Field when they were the Brooklyn Robins. That's right.
Who prevailed in that one?
Boston, I believe.
Well, then the Red Sox, yeah,
there
there
it is. There it is, right there. There it is. Historically, the Boston Red Sox have an advantage.
How many games, Chrissie?
Oh, I think we'll go 6. I'm going 6.
6 games?
Not the full 7, but
Okay.
it'll be good. It'll
All
be
right.
close. The pitching is so even, so I feel like it's likely that it'll be a little bit of a battle.
Right.
The pitching is incredibly even.
How do you see this series going, Wheel?
Boston's so good this year, and they're so deep. LA is at seemingly the back end of a window that has lasted almost 10 years. They've won their division 6 years in a row. They've made it to the NLCS, I think 4 times out of those 6 times. They've been kind of going deep into the playoffs for years. They've made the World Series the last 2 years. It's a window that you don't see very often in professional sports anymore. So they're either going to cap it off or they're just going to kind of fade. They're a ridiculously rich team. They made a very strong moves. They've got one of the best pitchers in baseball, arguably the best pitcher of the last 25 years, and that's Clayton Kershaw, who's got 3 Cy Young awards,
right,
and one of the kookiest deliveries you've ever seen. It looks like he's about to rip his arm out. I think Boston's going to take it, but I want LA to win.
All right.
So my prediction, LA in 7.
LA in 7. Boston 6, LA in 7. All right.
I'm interested to see what happens with Manny Machado because he has been pushing a lot of buttons.
More importantly than who's going to win it and how many games, though.
And everyone's going to have a good time. So,
well, of course, we always have.
Except the losers.
That's right.
I don't know. They're still going to get paid.
I want a kooky scenario from both of you because it's not just enough that we watch baseball and everyone has a good time. We need drama. We need controversy. We need a fan to potentially do something stupid that changes the course of the game, right?
Well, that's what I thought.
Right.
That's mine.
Yeah.
It's like Green Monster, Game 6, deciding runs on base.
Yeah.
There's a huge hit to the outfield. You can't tell if it's going to go out or not. It's really reaching that wall. The outfielders, left fielders running back. And he goes to jump and he's going to catch it. And a drunk Boston fan keels over, not to be, not to put people in boxes, but keels over the top of the Green Monster, collides with the outfielder the minute that he catches the ball, causing him to drop it.
Oh, my God.
What's the call?
Wow.
If he catches it, Red Sox win.
I think
if he drops it, Dodgers win.
Oh, so this is like Game 7.
This is like
bottom of the ninth.
Well, it's Game 6 because it's going to end in 6.
That's right. Yeah.
So what happens?
That's a dead ball scenario. I think a fan on the field is dead ball. So that's what I would go with. Also, is the outfielder okay? Because that's like
that's secondary. No one cares about that. No one cares about that.
Is that not like a 50-foot drop, 30-foot drop?
Oh, you mean is the fan okay? No one cares about him either.
No one cares about the fan. They care about the guy on the field who's worth millions of dollars. Not the
really what they care about is
Boston
did he
fan.
catch the ball, and then after that they care about his well-being.
Well, no, I mean if
you've watched any play,
not to be not fun, but if that happened, it would be a dead ball and the play would be dead.
Okay, Jesse's fired. This is
that is a kooky scenario. You know what? I
odds of drunk Boston fan.
I would say that would be a Bartman situation. So like the guy who fell off the Green Monster into left fielder. Oh, who's the left field for? Is it for Red Sox or for the Dodgers?
The Sox are in the outfield, and the Dodgers are hitting.
Oh, okay. The Sox are in the field.
It's poetic. Boston's own fan has to take
Benintendi. So I would say that Benintendi's head gets crushed, and the fan it's a Bartman scenario. So the fan gets death threats and cannot show his face in public for how long it's been for Bartman? 15 years. He still doesn't come out in public. He doesn't do interviews or anything like that. Even though the Cubs, the Cubs sent him a World Series ring. That's how they forgave him.
Aww.
That's amazing.
I want to do something stupid and have somebody forgive me by sending me a very expensive, rare object.
Yeah. But, I mean, you have to spend 15 years in, recluse.
Purgatory? That's fine. I basically do that anyways. It's winter.
All those years of death threats were totally worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it.
I envision, because it's LA, lots of movie stars, Hollywood power out there. Mm-hmm. I predict that who is super hot right now that will throw out a first pitch and injure one of the players. We'll just throw it so bad. What's that?
One of the Hadid sisters.
Who's Hadid?
Oh,
what?
Come on. Get
Who?
hit
Gigi
for the jive.
and
Gigi
what's the other one?
And Bella.
What the hell is going on right now? What?
They're model. Well, one's a model.
I think they're
the
both
other one,
models.
Are they both models?
This is not sports related.
They
at
are
all.
not hot enough to be hot, not physically hot, but hot enough as in popular enough to be throwing out the first pitch.
Oh, sure.
Are they?
Maybe.
Oh, they are they're very popular among the Utes.
The Utes. I'm sorry. 1 second. Let me just digress for a second. The Utes. Did you just do a My Cousin Vinny reference?
Yeah, the Utes.
Okay. Can I tell you a little story about my father?
Please do.
After you watch that movie, which is an incredibly funny movie, My Cousin Vinny is one of the best movies actually used as an example in law classes as to how legal procedure would work. It's one of the most accurate legal procedurals in movie history. So when Vinny says the two Utes, because he's got this thick Brooklyn accent, and they can't understand him, even though they're in Alabama and they don't understand English. My dad, every time we went to the movies when I was younger, he'd be like, an adult and a ute. And he'd say a ute. And the person would be like, excuse me? He'd be like, a ute. And I'd be so embarrassed. I'd be just like, a youth. Dad, it's a youth. So that is amazing. I think you and I need to be friends now, Chrissy, because you just used that reference that my father always used to use.
You weren't friends before?
Too many burns on early Wednesday morning radio. Too many burns.
So I predict that a celebrity will throw out a first pitch. It'll go wild.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray's throwing out a first pitch, maybe game 3, because I think the first 2 games are in Boston.
Yes.
And will injure Cody Bellinger, and that will tip the series in LA's favor.
Oh,
Can we just
poor Bill.
As an aside, since Jesse and I have both given our predictions and our kooky circumstance that's going to happen,
Yes.
I kind of want to know, your thoughts on who has the kookiest name.
Right.
'Cause I'm looking at some names here. We got a Mookie Betts. We got Xander Bogaerts, which is spelled super weird.
Yasiel Puig.
Puig.
I mean, that's...
Come on. Max Muncy, which doesn't sound that weird when you say it out loud, but when you read it, it looks real weird.
Jackie Bradley Jr. Sounds like an entertainer.
Like, those are some names, man.
I think the first time I heard Yasiel Puig, I thought the person on the radio who was saying his name was just like sneezing repeatedly.
Puig. Yes, Puig.
Puig. Like, oh, they're having a rough one today. They should have pre-recorded. But yeah, that's a name where if you just look at it on a roster sheet or something like that, and you don't already know how to pronounce it, you have no hope of pronouncing that
whatsoever.
And no matter how you mispronounce it, it's going to be offensive. Like,
That's right.
no matter how you say it incorrect, someone's going to be offended.
Yasiel Puig. There we are. Did you know? I'll share this with you because I was preparing for this show, so I looked at the.
Of course. Go on.
Cody Bellinger, who plays for the Dodgers, his father also played in the league. He played for the Yankees. 99. No, what did he do? 97, 98, 99, I believe.
Okay.
They won 3 in a row. No, 98, 99, 2000.
Right.
And and he's only been in the league 2 years. A Bellinger has not played a full season of MLB baseball without making it to the World Series. Crazy.
Wow.
His father played 3 seasons, 3 full seasons. He made it with the Yankees 3 times in a row. Cody Bellinger's on his 2nd season. He's made it to the World Series 2 times in a row. That is one of the most inane World Series or inane baseball stats ever. Factoids. It's incredible, though.
And that's why people invite you onto their radio shows. To supply those stats.
Yes,
I love baseball.
That's a fantastic filler stat. Well done.
Cabin Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Cabin Sports Radio. Joining me in studio now, Kendra Wambold, who is the Communications Director of Sport North and KidSport Coordinator. How's it going, Kendra?
Good. How are you?
Really good. Glad to have you in the studio today. We will talk about KidSport in just a bit because we got some really exciting news that you want to share about that. But first, about almost exactly a month from now, the NWT Sport Hall of Fame ceremony at the Yellowknife Elks, November 23rd. Who's getting inducted this year?
So this year we have an inductee in each of our categories. So our first one is Abe Teal with, he's our builder inductee. So lots of people probably know Abe from NWT volleyball. He's been in the North most of his life since he was quite young. And probably some of you have even played against Abe in volleyball. He was involved from coaching, officiating, volunteering, playing himself. He went to some Arctic Winter Games, and the first time in 1972 as a junior volleyball team member, and then he competed 9 more times after that, playing in the open category. And then he even went on to compete in the World Masters Games in Sydney, Australia in 2009, and then in beach volleyball in Italy after that. So Abe is definitely known throughout the community and has done some incredible things for the Volleyball Association. So he is our builder inductee this year. And then we have Robin Mercer-Spruill, who is our athlete this year. Robin, again, is well known in the North, especially in Yellowknife. She's represented Team Northwest Territories at the Arctic Winter Games, at national championships, international competitions, and has played in 6 sports. So she's a very well-rounded athlete, and including a mission staff volunteer, and then just a general volunteer for some of the sports that she's played in. So she's quite an amazing person, and we're excited to have her inducted this year. And then for our team, we have the Fort McPherson Centennial Canoe Team from the 1970 Sir Alexander Mackenzie Canoe Race. So this was a 6-man canoe race that took place. They started in Fort Providence, and then they finished in Inuvik. They won the race and are kind of Gwich'in heroes in their hometown. So we're excited to have those fellows inducted as well.
Awesome. The NWT Sport Hall of Fame, of course, it's always a really fun event. Always really great to hear all the old stories about people who, really did some amazing things back in the day, but, for whatever reason, it just probably kind of got lost in translation because, there's not a lot of hard records of things that were going on in the 70s up here in the north.
Not at all. Trying to find pictures sometimes is impossible, and pictures that are worthy of putting on different things because they're such low quality from back then. But I'm most excited to hear all the stories and stuff. So can't wait for that.
And so again, that is coming up November 23rd at the Yellowknife Elks. Can people just get into contact with you for tickets?
Yeah, so they can contact myself, or they can go Sport North's website and they can buy tickets online as well. They're $30 for general admission, and the TSOs, just a gentle reminder to get your tickets. You have 2 free, so you have instructions on how to purchase those.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That's awesome. November 23rd, one more time. Yes, the NWT Sport Hall of Fame 2018 ceremony coming up at the Yellowknife Elks. So get into contact with Kendra or head to sportnorth.com for ticket information on how to get in on that. Shifting gears here, we also mentioned off the top, you are the KidSport coordinator, of course, for the entire Northwest Territories.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you had some exciting news from KidSports.
Yes. So this year we were able to give out $33,500 through our KidSport Community Equipment Grant. So that was lots of the funds from that came from the Super Bingo we had in June. So we raised a lot of money that way, and we're just giving it back through this KidSport Community Equipment Grant. Normally the amount is not this large, but we're excited to see the kind of the ripple effect that's going into the communities from this equipment grant funding for them.
And that's going to be an ongoing thing here with Cabin Sports Radio because I was involved with Sport North early about a year ago now, I guess.
Almost exactly.
Yeah. Wow, time flies. And I was lucky enough to also be the KidSport coordinator at that time. And I think we were chatting about this a few weeks ago. The group that they have for KidSport Canada is just so passionate. And even if you're if you don't know what KidSport is, or maybe you're just not sure of the impact it has, you talk to any of those people that are involved on the national level, and it's impossible not to feel that enthusiasm.
Oh, you just walk into the room at some of our meetings, and you feel the passion, and you feel all these people trying to do everything that they can to get kids playing into sports. So that's what KidSport's all about, is getting kids off the sidelines and into a season of sport. And it's actually just so empowering and inspiring to be in be in a room with a group of people like that. And you leave those meetings and you just feel like you want to do better in the world.
So if anyone's listening and they're not maybe quite sure about what the KidSport program entails, can you tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, so KidSport is a national charity. So all the money that we give out, including these community equipment grants, is fundraised dollars. So some people think that KidSport is subsidized by the government or different ways that way. We're not. It's 100% fundraised dollars. So any money that's fundraised in the north stays in the north. There's not like a general pool of funds that the money goes into and then it's separated that way. So if you donate $20 to KidSport NWT, it stays in the NWT. And what we do is we give funding to financially challenged families who have kids who want to play sports. So anything from soccer, basketball, hockey, volleyball, any of the sports. So they can be eligible to receive up to $300 per season or per calendar year for sports.
It's a great program that's been going on for many, many years now and continues to get better and better, largely because of the hard work and enthusiasm of the people who we were just talking to, the national representatives on the KidSport board. Kendra, one more thing. How can people get into touch with you and by extension with KidSport?
Yeah, so there is a KidSport section on the Sport North website. So again, that's just sportnorth.com. They can find my contact information on there as well. And so if they're interested in volunteering for KidSport, donating to KidSport, or if they need KidSport funding, they can just get in touch with me that way, as well as all of our application forms are downloadable on our website.
Great stuff. So for more information on that, head to sportnorth.com. You can find everything you need to know about KidSport there, or you can contact Kendra directly. Kendra, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We will definitely be chatting with you sometime in the near future, and keep doing all the great work you're doing with KidSport and Sport North.
Awesome. Thanks.
The CSR Podcast.
Jordan Tutu announced his retirement this past weekend in Brandon, where he played his junior hockey. Sorry, Jesse, Chrissy, welcome back.
Yo.
Yes, Jordan Tutu announced his retirement this past weekend in Brandon, Manitoba, and was honored with a nice little video by the Wheat Kings that they put together for him. 35 years old, 13-year NHL career. Yeah, already, right? Like, doesn't that feel like he was just playing in the World Junior Championship like
the Tutu
a couple of years ago?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just terrifying every European that he's got in the face of. Oh my God! But yes, the first Inuk player in NHL history, and has put together like quite a career for himself.
Absolutely. 732 professional games. Like that's not nothing.
That's a great career.
That's a great career.
And I mean, really gave Nashville its first nickname with Smashville. That was because of Jordan Tutu.
Absolutely.
And him making an impact there. Great career. I mean, it's like you say, 35 years old already, and it feels like he just broke into the NHL and started terrifying everyone just yesterday.
Yes, and ridiculously strong for his size. Well, I think he topped out at 185 pounds or something like that. I don't know. I think he was pretty small.
5'9". So I mean,
5'9". Yeah, but exactly. Built like a brick hit house. Yeah, a wonderful career. Obviously some troubles along the way.
Yeah.
Coming from a tragic story. Like his brother gets caught on a DUI, thinks he's going to lose his entire career, and decides to end his life.
Yeah.
And coming from a situation like that is, obviously it's pretty harrowing. Okay, so who did he play for? He played for the Blackhawks.
So he broke in with the Nashville Predators,
Yeah.
was drafted by the Predators, then went to Detroit for 2 years, 2 years in New Jersey, and then finished not last season, but the season before was his final year with the Chicago Blackhawks.
And I was so hoping that when I saw him get on with the Hawks, I was so hoping that they'd make another run to continue that dynasty. I was like, oh man, it would be so amazing if he got a ring, even if he didn't play a real huge role. Just to have him on one of those teams would have been pretty incredible.
Right. Interesting era that he played through too. 2003 was his rookie year in Nashville. His final season in 2017. That's a big transition era in the NHL.
It's a huge transition era.
Because he was brought in. He was largely drafted based on the amount of chaos he was able to create on the ice. He would fly around, destroy people with body checks, absolutely lift the crowd out of its seats for sure. But he had to evolve.
Yeah.
You know, he couldn't really play that way. It's at least the last 5 years of his career.
One of the last of his breed, really. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's not many guys that get brought up through like that anymore, right? So, yeah, I mean, a very interesting career.
Yeah, and I mean, a tough way to go through your hockey career, being again 5'9", 190 pounds, and being a guy who you know you're going to have eyes on you, especially if you play the way he did and you're smashing guys into the boards. Someone's going to come after you, and they often did, and Jordan always answered the bell, and considering his size, fared pretty well. I think it was maybe a year or two into his career when people were like, all right, maybe we just leave this guy alone.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a Wolverine.
Pretty much, yeah. Better for everyone else's health there. He did successfully go through. He acknowledged that he had a drinking problem, and was actually one of the successful people to go through the NHL's rehab program. So that was great to see that he was able to, acknowledge that about himself and take reasonable steps to make his life better.
And this is what he wants to focus on his post-career. He wants to focus on helping the Indigenous community. This is what he said. And he actually won an Inspire Award in 2002, a Youth Inspire Award, formerly known as the Aboriginal Achievement Awards.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will win another one for coaching or whatever he chooses to do now. I know guys that played with him back in the day, like back in high school.
Right.
He played around here and he went down to tournaments in Edmonton and all these things.
Yeah.
And played against him. And like guys that I knew that were tough, good hockey players were like, it's like getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't keep your head down when Jordan Tutu was on the ice. That's for sure. Like you mentioned, he's in Yellowknife semi-frequently, so hopefully we can have him on Cabin Sports Radio one day. Would love to have Jordan Tutu on the show, and wish him all the best in his retirement. Great career, and no doubt going to be doing great things in his retirement. And wish him all the best with that. More Cabin Sports Radio on the way. We might talk a bit more baseball. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Baseball.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. The World Series happening. Game 1 tomorrow. Game 2 Wednesday. Jesse, what do you got? Come on.
What do you mean? What I got?
What do you got? You've been yanking to talk about more baseball.
Yanking. I have been yanking myself.
This is a family show.
I've been yanking myself all day long, trying to talk about baseball.
I think we said all there is to say, but I mean,
it's a special time. Okay. It's a special time. We're right around the time that it's like the 26th and 25th anniversaries of Toronto Blue Jays winning the World Series. There are no players left from that team. Those teams, of course. But I think tomorrow, I mean, it's... Chrissie said this off air, and she's absolutely correct. There is something about playoff baseball, much like any other sport where the playoffs just kind of amp it up, but there's something even more majestic, more traditional, more like Field of Dreams about playoff baseball. Like anything can happen. It's so loud, and it's so quick, and it's so... I don't know, mathematical. I don't know what it is about baseball, but especially playoff baseball. There's something just really, I don't even know what the word is.
It feels immense. Like my major gripe with baseball is how slow moving it is. And I mean, I didn't come up a baseball fan, right? So I don't appreciate that sort of thing.
Fair.
I know a lot of people are like, that's just the way it is. We love it the way it is, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like there is something to what you were just saying. In the how, every moment is drawn out more so than any other sport. Yes. And then as those moments are drawn out in the playoffs, those moments mean even more. And so, it's like the tension just gets higher and higher the longer it gets drawn out.
Absolutely.
Because when that moment happens and something, it just like that blows the top off the stadium.
Yeah.
When that thing happens, that thing that you're waiting for, right?
Yes.
So I think there is definitely something about that to baseball, and what you mentioned, Chrissy, that the regular season is such a slog.
And I think that and this is maybe a little bit of my own personal part of it, but I used to play baseball all growing up from 5 to 18, and in the playoffs, you were always kind of it was starting to get cooler in the evening, and you were kind of holding on to that last little bit of summer, and there's that nostalgia for the summer as you're entering the fall, and it's almost like going to the ballpark, and this is probably true when you're a fan as well. Like you said, it ties into that, the tension is getting greater, but then you're also trying to hold on to what was, and things are ending, and it's all coming to a head, and it's, it's all of that emotion wrapped up into one, and I think it's also such a slog, and it's the culmination of that. What is it? 162 games.
162 games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think you bottled that perfectly. Is that it's the release of tension, because it's this thing gets built up, and then it's something so incredibly fast. Like reacting to 100-mile-an-hour fastball is less than a third of a second or something like that you have time to react. And for someone to react that quickly and to, have a big hit or whatever, it's just that release of tension. And that's why it gets so loud. And that's why it's so, I don't know if you were watching Game 5 of the ALDS in 2015, where they had
that. Of course I was.
The seventh inning of that game turned into one of the greatest baseball stories in in the history of the game.
Right.
Where the Rangers went up by 1 on a weird ass play where Russell Martin tried to throw it to third to pick off a guy and ended up hitting the batter.
Mm-hmm.
It was called a dead ball, but then it was realized that when it went back to check the manual, because like even the umpires were like, it's a dead ball, right? It's like, no, let's check it out. And they went back and they're like, oh no, it's actually a run.
Right.
That happened, and then at the bottom of that inning, 4 errors in a row by Texas, and then Jose Bautista hits a 3-run homer, and all of a sudden it's 6-3, and that inning took 45 minutes. 1 inning of baseball. It's nuts. And just to digress for 1 second, it is the 26th anniversary of Game 5 of the 1992 World Series. Lonnie Smith hit a grand slam off of Jack Morris, who was just dog poop in that entire series. And the Atlanta Braves made the series 3-2.
I think that's the thing I'll always remark most on the Batista bat flip moment is that the 4 or 5 plays that led up to that moment were just like, none of that should have happened.
None of it should have happened.
Absolutely.
Texas should have been out of that inning like a half an hour before that. Like, so the fact that he did the bat flip, he probably would have done it anyway, but like the fact that he did the bat flip after all of those things happened, all of that confluence had to happen is an understatement. It was almost understated because he didn't like smile, he didn't like go away. He just kind of just threw it out. It's like, can you believe that just happened? Not only is it a great moment for me, it's a great moment for this team, but I shouldn't have even batted this inning. This is nuts. So, yeah. Great. Baseball's great.
Chrissy, how was your baseball trip? Or your Boston trip, rather?
Yeah, you went to see the Red Sox, right?
My Boston trip should have had a lot more sports in it. But
I thought you were
as it turns out,
I thought that was the whole purpose of the trip.
Those pro sports tickets are expensive. I'll tell you what, there, bud. I'll tell you what. Turns out Boston is a popular market for watching the sport ball.
No doubt.
It was great though. Saw the Bruins home opener against Ottawa.
Very nice.
So probably the only person in that building with any sort of vested interest in Ottawa, but I just faked it.
In that building or any other.
That's
unfortunately
fair assessment. It was great. That's a great venue. Boston's an awesome city to visit. I would highly recommend. And October's a great time to go. Get all your sports fix in. You could get some preseason NBA. You can go playoff baseball if the Sox are in, which they were this year. I would have had to sell my soul to get tickets.
So you didn't make it into Fenway?
No. Just wandered around it just creeped around the outside,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, same.
Do you got anything more about baseball, Jesse?
No,
you're good.
Fine.
Okay.
We'll do a whole baseball show one of these times.
Next summer.
Run
just
through my
every day.
entire experience of watching the Blue Jays play my whole life.
Yeah, we'll do that spring training. It's fine.
No, we'll do that like it's going to be a couple weeks.
Cabin Radio should send Jesse down to Florida during spring training.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I'll just report
We'll talk to Ollie about that.
Yeah.
Turning to the NBA, big brawl happened
for the NBA.
Big old brawl.
A big brawl for the NBA.
You know what? It was pretty nasty though. I
got a little nasty.
It's funny because I was thinking I saw it the other day on the highlights. I saw the eruption that happened, and it's just like as a lifelong hockey fan, you're a little bit desensitized to fighting and violence in general, right? But if a fight happens in a hockey game, I mean, I guess now more than ever, it's kind of like, whoa, you see what happened? Because, I mean, it used to be there was a fight every game.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of commonplace. That was just part of the game. Now it's, it's a little rare. They're trying to get fighting out of the game, and it is slowly making its way out of the game. So when something actually does happen like that, it's kind of like, whoa, did you see what happened?
Before you continue, how do you feel about getting fighting out of the game?
Oh, I'm all for it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, there will always be that element.
Protect the brains.
Well, and I mean, all right, we could go. We could go further into this.
Going to the NBA.
Let's not get into that.
We'll have a whole like traumatic brain injury episode.
Absolutely, yes. But when I saw it happen in that game, and there were some pretty wicked punches being thrown.
Like a couple. They didn't really land, though.
Oh, Chris Paul landed one. I think Rajon Rondo landed one.
It looked like Chris Paul took one.
A little slappy.
Took a pretty good one in the face there.
Bunch of thugs.
Ooh.
Right?
Terrible.
Controversial.
But yeah, there's something about when you see something like that happen in basketball or even baseball.
Yeah.
When you see a bench clearing brawl, it's just like, oh my God, this is insane.
It's a melee. Like it's not like hockey where two guys square off and everybody just kind of stands back and waits for it to be done. Everybody jumps in. Like when you see it in baseball, like the guys from the bullpen come running in from 400 feet away. It's like, we're going to get in the middle of this. It's like, you don't really need to.
No,
but
I'm
there you
actually
are.
surprised there's not more fighting in basketball. Like
There's a lot of clutch and grab.
Well, there's a lot of contact. Like in hockey, there's a lot of physical contact, and I think that it kind of activates your fight or flight sort of response. And in basketball, it's the same way. You're in there, you're hustling for rebounds. It's body against body. Like it gets pretty rough, and so I think that it's natural, for tempers to kind of overflow and it to get heated. So I'm actually surprised there's not more.
Yeah.
In a sport like baseball, it's a lot of posturing because no one's really touching anybody else. And there's not, it's more like, I'm a man. No, I'm a man.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
well, it's more of that unwritten rule stuff, right? You don't
Sure.
throw at a guy. Like if it's an accident, most people just tip a cap and that's good. But if there's like a situational thing happening where somebody gets thrown at, then like that's the other team calling you out. That's one of those unwritten rules of baseball thing. Like I'm going to call you out and you.
I feel like Jose Bautista's jaw would still say otherwise.
Ooh, Roughneck Odor.
Oh my
that's
God.
That's the best
another,
hit.
that's
That's
another
the best
great
hit
name.
Roughneck Odor's had in 3 years.
Ooh.
Yeah, burn on Roughneck Odor.
But that's like another great name. Just add that to the list of awesome baseball names.
Roughneck Odor.
Yeah, like come on.
So
Yeah.
if you
I think we'll name him Roughneck.
Well, the next manager for the Toronto Blue Jays may be a Canadian, and it may be like the greatest baseball name of all time, Stubby Clap. Great name. Great name.
If you haven't seen the brawl, go on TSN. They've got it on.
Not
there.
as good as
It's
the melee at Auburn Hills with Ron Artest, who like jumped into
Oh, my God.
Good
Yeah.
Lord. When was that? Like 07 or something like that. It was nuts.
We want to go back into the vault of great sports brawls. I mean, yeah, this one probably doesn't exactly
I know.
measure
Sorry,
up.
sorry. Before
Millbury
we-
going into the stand is nuts.
Before we move on from this this Lakers brawl,
Yeah.
can we talk about how like after their first game, did you see what LeBron was quoted as saying?
No.
Cracked me up a couple days ago. He used an analogy and he said, we're going to be kind of like oatmeal, instant oatmeal. We're not going to come together right away.
What?
I mean, I guess I've never made instant oatmeal.
It does
So
come
I,
together pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
Like within a minute.
Yeah, like he said, we're going to have to take time. We're going to have to like pour some water on us and get us together. And then we're going to, be like oatmeal. We'll get it together, And I
Yeah.
was like, what a weird, like that is so
That's
like
an
the
odd
least
one.
poetic thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, no one's ever accused LeBron of being a poet.
We're going to be a real uninspiring breakfast.
I'm
this
gonna,
year,
I'm
you know?
gonna, I'm gonna take my talents to cream of wheat.
Maybe around the trade deadline, we might add some cinnamon, maybe some raisins.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be an oatmeal season.
Okay, who are the raisins?
I have no idea.
Who's the cinnamon?
Fallout from this brawl, Chris Paul was fined a total of $491,000 and $782,000. Ooh, man,
An arbitrary
math is hard.
number.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
it was really random, but
Three
that's-
games. That's what he
Right.
earns in 3 games.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like, that's pretty hefty.
it's pretty heavy.
Like-
That man will never win a championship, so I don't care.
So he began his suspension Sunday night, and Rondo is getting fined a total of $186,207
For 2 games.
Yeah. So, oof. That's
After the new TV contract came in, though, like NBA salaries jumped. Like,
Oh, it's nuts.
crazy. It's
Guys
crazy.
you've never heard of are getting max contracts. You're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He's making $125 million over 5 years. What?
Because the licensing deal that they
Oh, yeah.
signed is, I mean, like
Huge.
they're at least the players are doing well by it. I mean, contrary to other leagues where these licensing deals are out of control, and
Yeah.
the players are really not making like a good piece of that pie.
That's
the NBA
true.
is different. It's
NBA is
structured,
very different.
really serves the athletes, anyways.
It's interesting too how, and I mean, maybe something will come of this. It's a bit absurd when you see players who get suspended. It's usually like guys who are kind of in hockey anyway, guys who are kind of on the fence of being minor leaguers or major leaguers,
Yeah.
and they'll get called up for one game, get in a fight because that's what they're supposed to do,
Uh-huh.
and then the NHL will fine or suspend them for 3 games, and they get the fine there and that. And
Yeah,
then,
like Crosby's not getting into any brawls, and then
No, it is not in his best interest to get
Yeah.
any brawls at this point.
Yeah.
But you'll see sometimes, players will actually they'll raise money to pay for that person's fine. Or sometimes fans will even
Right.
start a GoFundMe to pay for, this guy who's 18th on the depth chart pay for his fines. And I don't know
That's
if
nice.
there's really that sort of thing in
like
the
that.
NBA that they.
I don't think there needs to be. I
There
think
probably doesn't.
I think the lowest paid guy in the NBA probably still makes like $3 million.
Only hockey's still on that welfare salary.
500,000. Yeah,
500,000.
What's the league minimum? $500,000.
It might be even higher than
I think
that,
it's 750 or 850.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's funny. When we got into a conversation with Ollie not too long ago about hockey salaries compared to football salaries.
Soccer salaries. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's amazing because, we're in the salary cap era with the NHL. And so there's always that consideration when you're talking about guys and how much they're getting signed by or signed for. And then you think like the William Nylander situation with the Leafs right now. He's asking for like $8 or $8.5 million.
Jerk.
Meanwhile, you look at football over in Europe, and they're just like $8 million. Oh, he's really asking a lot.
Yeah.
No, he's not making anything compared to those guys.
Not at all. Like there's like $1 billion transfer fees for guys over there. It's
but
nuts.
that's all funded by like Saudi oil.
We're all funded by Saudi oil. Maybe not for long because, we don't have to get into politics.
No, we don't need to get into that. And actually, that will about do it for tonight's episode.
Just as we were getting to the meaty stuff
of Cabin Sports Radio. Before we get into the politics, let's say goodbye. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Meet Merp.
And Jesse, as always a pleasure.
Meet Merp.
And
Merp. Oh, wait, Gritty. I just need to throw this out here because I never know if I'm going to get to guest host again.
Go on.
Gritty is he's so awesome.
He's the ish?
Yeah, he's the ish. I love Gritty. Gritty is me. Gritty is like slightly psychotic look on his face, totally disheveled hair, kind of violent, heart of gold.
Check.
Like,
I personally think they just missed Scott Hartnell in Philadelphia that much. Let's just make a mascot that looks exactly like him.
Scotty Hartnell on acid. Let's do it.
That'll do it for Cabin Sports Radio this week. Jesse, Chrissy, thank you so much for joining me. And maybe we'll have you back next week. Woo! Maybe 2 new guests.
I'm not coming back.
Who knows? Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North. See you next Monday.